Good morning. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for joining us. First Friday in October. I never thought we'd get to October, but it has been fabulous outside. As Chuck and I are talking about, the weather's just phenomenal. Strange, right? We usually don't have this great weather in early October, so we'll take it, right? Anything happening going on in the country I hadn't heard about? Maybe not. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll start off with some Today in History. One of my favorite movies of all time, Bridge Over River Kwai, was released in 1957. For Gen Xers like myself, Oasis released What's the Story Morning Glory, 1995. And another day in history, the president gets COVID. There's not enough places to continue to scratch for 2020. But anyway, we're there. It's going to be interesting the way this plays out for the next 30 days. Let's go straight into South Carolina news. Big week, really, actually a huge week for South Carolina as a whole, with Boeing announcing moving all their capacity for 787s down to Charleston. That's a big deal. I'll tell you, for those that have not paid attention to South Carolina for the last 20 years, has really pushed hard on being a right-to-work state. And I will tell you, it paid off in Boeing, because Boeing moved here because of a labor walkout that happened in Washington and left them short for a while and cost them a lot of money. So they're here, and that's a great thing. So congrats to Department of Commerce and Charleston folks. But really, it's a big win for everybody in South Carolina. South Carolina being as small as it is, the ripple effect is huge. And Rich, I had an opportunity to talk to one of your reporters this week about the potential closing of Parris Island and the impact that it may have here in South, for us. And it doesn't have anything. It won't have any impact on the training that goes on at Fort Jackson. But when you have a $700 million impact to South Carolina, we're going to feel it, right? I mean, those revenues don't come into the state, we all feel it. And so anyway, so what's good for them is good for us, and we're excited about Boeing's news. What we don't know yet is the impact that it'll have on job numbers. I think they hover between 7,000 and 8,000 full-time employees. Lots of their employees are contract work, and so we'll have to see what those numbers are. They have not released that, but we're excited about that. The other interesting news this week was the back and forth with the AG on settlement charges for the used nuclear waste in Aiken. Why it's big is because the two firms that are supposed to win $75 million are both based in Columbia. There's battling suits on that dollars. I don't know if y'all caught it last night, but a judge blocked the money being spent. Let me back up. Award was given $600 million to South Carolina. It was a negotiated settlement, and out of that, attorney's fees were about $75 million, and which exceeds what supposedly is a state cap on attorney's fees. But the AG pushed it through hours before a hearing on whether or not we could do those settlement charges. So anyway, federal court has blocked that, so we'll see what happens with that. But that is just interesting thing to note. It's a little the political ramifications are a bigger story here than it really is about the money, because governors on one side, AGs on the other. So we'll have to. That'll be really interesting. Lastly, on the state front, and love to get y'all's feedback on this, is the governor lifting some restrictions on restaurants. Interesting that the alcohol cap at 11 o'clock is still in place, but he's going to lift the restrictions on the 50% capacity. So love to get y'all's thoughts if that's a good thing, bad thing. I'll have to give you my personal opinion. I don't know if it's going to play that much of a difference. Maybe some restaurants will open up now, but I'll be shocked if restaurants go straight to 100% capacity. I think the public sentiment and just the consumer confidence isn't there yet, but that's just me. Anybody got thoughts on that? I don't see any restaurateurs or anybody in the hospitality. I'm looking.
So Carl, I think people were now starting to get used to going into restaurants again, and used to the 50% occupancy. I think if they go to 100%, those folks who had gingerly walked in and they may not be walking in again. So I think the restaurateurs have to be very careful about how they place those tables and where they how they set up.
I totally agree. I think by 100% capacity, that's a number based upon the fire marshal and what a seating capacity should be or could be. I just don't see that playing out long term. I don't think you'll see restaurants for the foreseeable future use that as a seating chart. I think they'll probably go. I can see 75%. Because there are a lot of restaurants that cannot open at a 50%. They can't make any, they can't break even. And so if that's the case, I can see where 75% would be manageable. Anyway, we'll see how that rolls out. Again, a separate executive order deals with the prohibition of consumption and sale of alcohol after 11. So, but right now there's no plans, to my knowledge, that that's going to be lifted anytime soon. Masks are still required from the door to the table, and from the table back to the door if you're in a restaurant. But and servers and all that stuff are still required to wear masks. But we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, we joked a little bit about. It wasn't really joking. But I do feel sorry for anyone that has attracted COVID, and so thoughts and prayers are with the president and the first lady. But it does bring up a lot of news, right? I mean, I really thought the early October surprise was Justice Ginsburg, and now maybe it's COVID for the president. But anyway, the House passed another big bill yesterday, $2.2 trillion CARES Act, Part 2. It was called their HEROES Act that they initially passed, like, if I remember correctly, it was somewhere around May 11th. But this was down from the $3.3 trillion bill that they passed. Of course, the White House this week pushed back and said, no, we're not willing to go that high. We're willing to move off of 1.1. We'll go to 1.6 trillion. The House Democrats says, no, we're going to stick with 2.2. So there's some distance there, and it shows they're not really breaking. I understand that one of the bigger sticking points is whether to pay off student loans with some of this COVID money. So we'll see. What do I know? But I think both sides are playing chicken right now, and it's not good. But we need the PPP. If you noticed earlier in the week, you had a bunch of layoffs from the airlines. They said that was going to happen, and many jobs were lost yesterday. I know in America they laid off, I think, 19,000, and they were trying to put off some of those layoffs to see what Congress was going to do, if they could work out a deal this week between Mnuchin and Pelosi, but that hadn't happened. So more to come, I guess. I'm as anxious as you are. For those in the nonprofit sphere, they did include C6s in the next round of PPP, which would be helpful to direct marketing organizations, DMOs, chambers, other trade associations. So, Columbia news. The city's done a good job. Krista Hampton and crew in the planning office they've got a new planning map. If you've not seen that, they're doing some presentations. and they'll actually do one personally for you if you call and set an appointment. But they're looking at new zoning maps, which is really long overdue. So kudos to Krista and her team at the City of Columbia. That'll be big. And one to watch, in one of my soapbox issues, the City of Columbia actually, over a year ago, had a local economist do a very, very thorough dive into, it's called the property tax capacity analysis, and that's going to be discussed Tuesday at council meeting, I understand. And so that's going to be very, very interesting going forward, especially as business owners here in Columbia. What is from a city's perspective, and it's their perspective, they hired the consultant, but what does the future look like in the makeup of the tax structure in Columbia? I would argue it is more than broken, penalizing business versus property owners, et cetera, just because of our makeup, right? The state law tax codes versus what we can do locally. And so I'm really interested in seeing this report that's supposed to be released. This was Tuesday. So just giving you a little foreshadowing coming up. But I think it'll highlight a lot of what we've been talking about for years here, is the inequities on the business side and the impact it has. It's all cyclical, right? But our inability to really land some strong economic development projects is based on our higher tax rates. And so we all got to work together to figure that out. So, all right, I'm going to shut up and ask a few questions, but biggest news today, in my opinion, you got the Las Vegas Aces versus Seattle Storm tonight, the WNBA Finals. Our own Asia Wilson taking on her longtime nemesis, Brianna Stewart from Connecticut. That should be a barn burner, and I look forward to seeing that tonight. So go Asia and Las Vegas Aces. So, all right, what's going on with y'all? Let's hit some high notes. Oh, Travis McNeil stopped by last week and brought me one of those fancy coffee cups he's got from his new coffee place. So thank you, Travis. Y'all stop by and see him. Appreciate you thinking of me. Enjoyed our visit last week. Any other? Let's talk. I won't put him on the spot first, but I would love an update from Dr. Witherspoon. He's sitting back, taking us all in, but I'm sure he's got some inputs or thoughts that we probably should hear. Anything else anybody wants to start before I throw it over his way? Ron Harvey, you got anything going on? I put him on the spot. He just clicked over, but Ron's got his work is at an all-time high right now. All right, Dr. Witherspoon, you have an update for us or anything going on with Richland 1?
All right, well, good morning. And certainly as Carl, you've been indicating the numbers, the indicators are going down. We started at a positivity rate of I think when things started around 27%, and that's as of last week, it's down to like 13%. So the numbers that we've been using as a district, which based on DHEC and so forth, we're certainly trending in the right direction. Carl, you mentioned several weeks ago about USC's numbers going down and how you can't really pull USC out because they're in our community. And to give you all some other interesting things, and we've looked at things a lot of different ways, and folks have said, well, what about this zip code and that zip code? You take an average school, we have folks that come in and out of an average, that work in an average school from 12 to 14 to 17 different zip codes. So we can't, it's not like the NBA where we can put a bubble over a zip code. And, but again, and I'm just giving some of these things and these facts out here just in terms of we do continue to look at the numbers. We do continue to look and see what we can do. And we're again thrilled that the numbers are trending in the right direction. We're absolutely thrilled about that. So that being said, I'll be giving an update to the board. I think it's going to be on Tuesday, about how we plan to, given where we are and given the numbers. I did release a letter last Friday, a week ago today, that we do have a priority list of categories of students and so forth that we're looking at to start to transition back, maybe before we look at our phase 2 and what have you. So teams and teachers, administrators, healthcare folks, and all, we talk, if not on a weekly basis, several times a week, and so forth. But I'd say all that to say, I'll be putting out some more information, given the numbers, given our priority list, and how we're gonna move forward on Tuesday. So I think that'll be some good information for our community to hear. But again, we continue to look at the numbers, look at where things are, and just make the best decisions possible. Given the demographics of our staff, demographics and so forth for students, and given again the health data and a lot of the things that everybody on this call hears about and sees about. And then the last thing I'll say, Carl, about maybe a week or so ago, the CDC did change some guidelines or some recommendations, if you will, guidance, regarding the risk, if you will, with the mask wearing and some of those mitigating factors. But that still took into account, again, some of the high numbers. But again, as the numbers are coming down, that equals out and what have you. So we have been looking at that. But again, there'll be some information coming out next week that'll continue having us moving in a certain direction. So
great.
Stay tuned.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing about it.
Sure.
I got a question. Hold on. I'm trying to find an email. Annette asked about the CARES Act, the HEROES Act that passed. It is basically an extension of CARES Act. I don't know what level, what number 4, number 5 of the additional stuff, Annette. But your question was, what else did it have in there? And there is about $436 billion for state and local governments. They had about, it also extended the ability, extended the timeline to spend the PPP from December 2020 to December 2021.
21.
Yep. What did it? How much did it give of the states? It gave $436 billion. Was there impact to education? Was there a allocation in this new round for education, Dr. Wisman?
Not sure on the new round. Of course, districts got some money from the initial CARES Act, and there was some litigation with that at the federal level that changed some of that. I want to say the state got some additional money, but we're still getting guidance on that from the state.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and there's been some communication, some clarifying communication and all of that. But one of the things we're able to do is with some of the PPE stuff and all, some of that, of course, the district has balked with some of those funds. Some of it, the state districts can ask the state to look at some of that as well, so that districts may be able to redirect some of those funds previously allocated and so forth. So we're still getting guidance on that.
Okay.
to see how that shakes out.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Wishbone.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, education is right now is highly complex. And so I don't mean this flippant. I don't want to be in your shoes today. That's good luck with all your decisions. So we know there's a lot on you. All right. Any other questions we got for anybody today? Thoughts, pearls of wisdom?
Carl, I think one of the things we're going to be watching next week is in-person absentee voting begins, and
Tuesday, correct?
on Tuesday, and multiple locations in multiple counties. And what's the turnout going to be? Is everything working? How are the poll workers? Do they have enough? All of that kind of stuff. So I think voting. I think in the next month between now and Election Day, the vote is going to be the big story.
I agree. And the scary part for any of the candidates too is that every day is election day for the next month for a lot of people. And we still don't forget the question of whether or not you need a absentee ballot witnessed or not is heading to the Supreme Court. So we don't even have any clarity on that. And ballots, it opens up on Tuesday. So
the other thing, Carl, usually in the past few years, the campaign has really been the last 2 weeks. That's when you, for instance, on television, you see tremendous numbers of ads in every break. Because of absentee voting across the country and here in South Carolina, and the vote by, not only vote by mail, but in person, that window of multiple ads has been extended, and beginning Monday, it'll pretty much blow up. It'll be everywhere. FYI. If you think you've seen a lot now, just wait.
you heard it here first from the expert.
Carl, this is Lynn. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. You hit mute, Lynn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I believe the census date was put back to October 31st.
That's true.
So there's been a push to try to get more numbers in South Carolina. So just wanted to bring that up.
South Carolina's one of the worst states in responses to the census. So if you or any organization that you're part of, please remind everybody to get that census information. There is a huge impact, both at the state and local level, because that's how you base a lot of the formulas for reimbursement for federal funding, et cetera, is all based upon the census. So critical stuff there. Thanks for the reminder, Lynn. All right, couple points to note. Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock, we've got folks from our firm up in DC, Casting Associates, coming down, or not coming, they're going to Zoom down to be with us, talk a little bit about what's going on in DC, clarifying some stuff. Annette, check this out. She'll be here Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock and can answer a lot of the questions about the CARES Act. Hopefully we'll have more stuff to answer by then, or the HEROES Act, HEROES Act. But we'll also talk about the two people in the firm are more or less political experts that can give. I talked to him yesterday about just the overall election conversation and really interesting charts and looking at from a 15,000 foot, what does it do for the Senate, House, a lot of stuff. So the elections are huge this cycle. So they'll be here with us on Tuesday morning and talk about that, as well as the impact the elections may have on military spending, and specifically Jackson and McIntyre here in the Midlands and Shaw. So please join us then. There's a lot of opportunity there to learn about what's the impact that DC has here in the Midlands. Rose just put up, there's a link in the chat box to register for that on Tuesday morning. Anything else? All right, we've got just a note. I'm gonna leave it hanging just for y'all so you don't click off, but the missus and I are having an anniversary next Friday, so I am not gonna be with you but we will have coffee with somebody. It may not be coffee with Carl and Spirit, but we'll have it here next Friday morning, but without me. Sorry. All right. Last chance for somebody to throw something out there. If not, man,
You should bring the missus one time to the coffee.
well, I may have to do that. She'll chuckle. Yeah. Well, listen, y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy this beautiful fall weather. And hopefully we'll have a good game in Gainesville. And anyway, y'all enjoy. Thanks for being here today. Peace out. See you.